Welcome to the Love and Longevity podcast, where we are just having conversations here. And those conversations are based off of love and longevity. So that ranges from love, friendships, relationships to aging in place, caring for our parents, caring for our grandparents, just caring in general for others, as well as just how to live your best life at every single stage. Every episode, we want to provide actionable insights, and I'm so excited for our guest. But first, my name is Christian Ross. I'm the founder and chief happiness officer of Happy Talks, where we provide social calls for older adults. Our whole goal is to curb loneliness. Welcome to Love and Longevity with Christian Ross. That's me. I'm so excited that you are here, and welcome to my home. I am here, part 2, with my dear mother, Chetta. Young Chet. So, don't roll your eyes, lady. So I want to ask you, it's funny, I have a lot of conversations with my friends, and the reality is, as we hit our 30s, we realize that our parents were getting older. We didn't realize that until we probably hit about 34, and then, stuff starts happening with someone's parent, something else happens with someone else's parent, and that reality hits you, and then people are starting to get divorces and all these different things. Like, we realize, oh, this is the life that others talked about. Yeah. So when I think about, how life will be fast forward 30 years, fast forward 40 years, prayerfully we're here, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges facing older adults today?
Their health, whether it be physical or whether it would be cognitive, their health, dealing with appointments, taking that loved one to their appointments, because there may be physical therapy that's needed or whatever.
Yeah.
Just a regular doctor's visit. There's sometimes several doctor visits in 1 week. You also have the care, especially if it's a mental situation. It's the care, making sure the right caregiver is in place. Mm-hmm. And that's if it's a full-time caregiver needed, or if it's support from the family. There are families where one person is always the prime person to take that person to the doctor, that parent, whatever, provide care for that parent. But it shouldn't be just one.
Yeah.
If you have siblings, it should be everybody. They all should be supportive, and it shouldn't fall on one. I know when my mother suffered, at the end with Alzheimer's, well, I know I was the only one to be her caretaker. So it didn't faze me. But say I had other siblings that should have participated, that would be heartbreaking. And it's hard when you look back and say, gee whiz, I was the only one who did this for my parent. But that's one big issue that exists out there in the community.
Yeah.
Taking care and providing the care, making sure the doctor gives you the best care. The doctor listens to your needs and is providing, the appropriate solutions. Mm-hmm. But that is so important that they get the proper care. It's a problem that's facing us, that is. And the related costs can be really heavy for some people. They're on Medicare. They can't afford it. They don't have the supplement or whatever. But the cost of all of this is another issue that's trending today.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, when I think, and I see a lot of older adults who are looking at moving out of the country just because,
yes.
Healthcare is cheaper,
exactly.
Food's cheaper and a better quality,
yes.
like all these different things that could impact how their life is.
Exactly.
Have you ever thought about moving abroad in
Sure has. Yes.
Is having a new husband stopped you? What do you think?
No, he's willing to travel with me. If I said wherever, boy, I might have to eat my words, but we have both discussed it, really.
Okay.
We've both not ruled it out, moving either out of the Maryland area or the country. The only thing that would impact me would be my church. That's the one, you're talking about longevity.
Yeah.
That is the one steadfast item in my life, I should say, that is just constant, the one constant.
Yeah.
That particular church, not others, just that particular church, New Psalmist Baptist Church.
Yeah.
So that would be my biggest deterrent to move. although I can look back in the 70s, I had a job offer down in Atlanta, and it was my church that kept me from taking that offer. So that's how important it is to me.
Wow. So I would have like already been in Atlanta.
You would have been in Atlanta. You would have gotten that free tuition too.
Definitely wasn't free. So when it comes down to, how you said how your church has been an anchor and some of the things facing older adults, I always think about the money piece. And, you're an auditor. I think about the money piece. And especially too, when I think about financial planning, we've always talked about 80s. And now, I just read an article about a man in New Jersey, 110, who drives himself, who, it's funny, you mentioned you should exercise. He's like, why do people run? Where are they running to?
Yeah.
But he's in New Jersey. He's living his best life. He's eating what he wants. He's 110. He's cognitively there. Like, when you think about financial planning now, seeing that maybe when you were planning, it was, oh, maybe this is the time period. What goes through your head as far as how to extend that financial highway?
I've always been a very frugal person, but I see the need for that more and more every day now.
Yeah.
Across the board, everybody. You have to think about, hey, I could live to be 90, or like you say, 100.
100.
So
Yeah.
my income, my 401 or whatever you may have, I have to make sure I'm not running in there, taking it out, taking this out, maybe even
Right.
helping the grandchildren or the children.
Yeah.
You help where you can.
Yeah.
But you got to also think about your future
Yes.
and be reasonable. They're younger and they can kind of maneuver throughout to do this and do that on their own.
Yeah.
But you have to really plan and think about, my longevity could be 90, and that's a big player.
Yeah.
100, and spend cautiously.
Yeah.
Enjoy, because then we don't know whether you're going to drop today or tomorrow. But spend cautiously.
Yeah.
And try to have in mind, I won't touch this or whatever until. And then whatever, comes into play, you can kind of take care of the medical part. It could impact your money. And just inflation.
Oh,
Look at this past period we've just gone through these last couple of years.
this is crazy.
Gasoline, food, whatever, inflation. So we just have to be cautious, and especially if it's a turn in the market where we are not making money,
Yeah.
have to be cautious.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I realized the other day, I was talking to a friend and I said, you know what it is? My brain is still in 2018 prices. So when I see things, I'm like, that's not the price. And then I'm like, wait a minute, 2018 was 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Like that was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like 6 years ago. So of course prices would change in 6 years. And then we had a whole pandemic in between.
Yeah.
They're milking the supply chain.
Yeah.
They're
They
milking
are.
it now.
They are, definitely.
There was I think a Zurich-based economist that called it right now with corporations. He called it greedflation. Mm-hmm. He said, because yes, there's some inflation, but there's a whole lot of greed mixed into this
Yes.
right now.
Exactly.
And so I just think about how mentally I'm adjusting because I'm still like getting the things that I have, but noticing that everything is like 30 to 40 to 60% higher.
Exactly.
And I'm just like, what? So I think about those people who, okay, you've had this retirement and you're thinking, cool, I'm going to have it for 30 more years. But if you're living for 50 more years, that's a different ball game.
Yes. Yes. And, if you have the ability or if you have the need, well, first of all, have a financial planner, but have that person, but discuss just what we're talking about. How should I approach this?
Yeah.
All my spending habits. How can I approach it to get me through thinking of the long term?
Right.
Not just based on, hey, some people think, oh, well, it could happen anytime I pass or whatever. But, you said we're living longer.
Yeah.
And so we have to kind of base our plans on that as far as spending and, increase our money, grow our money.
Yeah.
So that it kind of is an offset. It's growing. Our money is growing, although we might be spending a little out of line, but our money is growing.
Yeah. So it kind of offsets it.
Yeah, that could be an offset there. But that's something to think about, with a financial planner.
So we're going to circle back to Love Alley.
Okay. Okay.
You've lived a great life. You live a great life. And I wanted to emphasize just about love that you have found love and been married. This is your 4th marriage.
Yes.
And I think that's a beautiful thing because you weren't closed off to it. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think makes a good wife and what makes a good husband or a good partner? Let's a good partner.
Yeah. That love has to be strong, has to be shown throughout. You have to show love. I mean, show love.
No, you make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, love is an action.
Yeah.
It's not just words, it's an action. So yeah.
Show it.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. My husband needs some white T-shirts. So I think it would be nice if I just surprised him with some white T-shirts. He refused to let go of the old ones. I don't know why, but
We'll go to
does.
Costco afterwards. They have a great sale right now.
Okay, great. But, little things like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just the little things that shows, boy, they really care.
Yes.
I cooked something, I think, the other day that was really, we both cook. Let me just get that out there. We are foodies and we cook. And he will ask me tonight, what are we going to have for dinner tomorrow? Sometimes I roll my eyes in my head like, wow, let me get through this day first. So let me get through the night. But we loved food. And we've gotten up in the middle of the night, 3:00, and cooked a little something real quickly because we were hungry. He didn't eat properly, earlier. But doing things like that together, just supporting each other. We go to every doctor appointment together. That's love. And I guess we can do it because of our time and the way I do work. Basically, just showing love is so important. Being supportive to that person, working together as a team, because once you do hook up, you are a team.
Yeah.
And doing things together. And so many people don't realize that concept. We do it together. We help. We share this or we share that. And I think those are some of the elements I know that's helped me in this marriage.
Hi, I'm Christian Ross, founder and chief happiness officer of Happy Talks, where we provide social phone calls for older adults. So while you're thinking about the care of your loved one, remember, connection is key to optimal health, and we would love to partner with you. Go ahead and visit www.happytalks.com. And what do you think about fighting fair? How do you make sure that you fight fair? Because of course we're going to get in disagreements with the people who we love, but how do you make sure that, it stays at a point that afterwards you can look at each other and be like, all right, we're cool. I may not like you right now, but we're cool.
That's so interesting because Jerome is the first person that I have met that I can say, oh, I don't like this, and maybe we discuss it. I don't use the word arguing, mad, but we'll discuss. And the discussion might get a little heated.
Yeah.
Very mild heat. We don't have the harsh words or whatever.
Yeah.
But the point is, I can dislike something that he said or whatever, and then within 10 minutes, we're back to normal.
Yeah.
I've never done that before.
Gotcha.
Because I can do it. Now I know it's not me.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. It's the person that you're dealing with has to be on the same quickly forgiven page.
Yeah.
And I can't walk around in a house mad. That's key too. But one thing that's really key, and you may have heard, never go to bed angry. Well, I say that's true, but never leave home angry. Point in case, when my husband left home on August 9th, 1997, we had sat at Cracker Barrel and we separate the newspaper. And we did this at breakfast. He got the sports section, I got the business section. We sat there, we talked, and then I just kept plucking the paper because I'm a person that likes to agitate in a joking way. And I kept plucking the paper that morning. And he said, oh, girl, you so crazy. Then we left out, and he said, I love you. And I said, I love you. Well, that was the day that he was killed. Mm-hmm. Now, suppose I had left angry.
Yeah.
But I left, and I hung on during that bereavement period to the words, I love you.
Yeah.
It was my strength. I love you. He said that before we left. I said it to him. There was no arguments. So when we leave out the house, we don't know whether we're coming back, who's coming back or not.
Amen.
My point is, show love.
Show love.
Do not argue, leaving out the house either, but show your love. And I guarantee you, you can hang on to that love to help you get through whatever might come next.
And speaking of that, I think about with my company, I have met so many widows
Yeah.
or people who have recently become widowed. They've lost their partner. They've lost their partner of life, and they have been with them for one woman who held my hand the other day. She told me the most beautiful stories about her husband, that they were married for 64 years.
Ooh.
Another one, they were married for, I want to say it was 64 and a half or 61 and a half years, and he passed away. And I see the smiles on their faces as they're telling stories, but of course, that was not the case when they first were going through it.
Yes.
What advice would you give to someone who recently lost their partner in life?
That's tough because it's a period of migration through that struggle.
Yeah.
And I can only talk from experience. It's not an overnight process.
No.
For some, it could be months. Some, it could be years. It's just not overnight. But you have to stay in prayer and just ask for help in your prayers that, you'll heal. And I think you need to be out with family and friends and do things and
Yeah.
concentrate on just not falling into a pit of sorrow.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You got to move on. I lost my husband at that time, but I also lost you the next year because you went off to college. So it was like a double loss for me.
Yeah.
And my saving grace, I wasn't looking for a job outside of where I was working at that time, but a job came to me that put me back on the road.
Yeah.
A job where I traveled. And I had a territory from Pennsylvania, D.C., Virginia, Maryland, whatever. I had a large territory in all of Virginia where I traveled. And then each day I would meet people and talk and, about the work or whatever. So that took my mind off of things.
Yeah.
But I didn't fall into a pit of sorrow.
Yeah.
And the job just came. I had given my business card to an individual, I guess it was probably years ago, while this company came in to audit us, the credit union, because by then I was a credit unionist. The job just came to me from the person I gave my card to, where I said, if you ever have any openings, let me know. But that was like 2 years or whatever, 3 or 4 years
Wow.
later. But the bottom line, the job came at the right time.
Yeah.
Because I had two losses. My daughter went off to college, and my husband was, he died, and here I am. I felt a little lonely, I will say.
Yeah.
But then I would read or whatever. But I didn't allow myself to get into that pit of sorrow, and I stayed active.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole thing in a nutshell.
Is to stay active. And then I think from some perspective, staying active is great, but it's also too can be distracting from facing the grief that you feel. How do you balance that to make sure that you're helping your brain and your spirit by being out, but you're also feeling what you feel at that time?
I think basically you would have to cry, have your time.
Yep.
I'll give you an example. I would never forget, I flew into, my job was headquartered in Madison, Wisconsin. I flew into Madison, and it was right after 9/11. So that's still in that period. And again, this is 3 years later just about, and I'm still kind of grieving. But I flew into Madison, and when I got to the building designation, I went into the bathroom, and I just boo-hooed.
Yeah.
So you do that.
Yeah.
Or
Makes
that's
sense.
one
Let
example.
it out. Let it out.
Let it out. And then there were times prior to that, right after his death, I would have to just go into the bathroom and just shed my tears.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll get to a happy point where you can talk about what happened and still you'll talk about it and you won't burst out in tears or you
Yeah.
won't get teary, but you let it come out. And
Yeah.
you're home, you let it come out, and then you go on and do the next task,
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
My stepfather, William, was quite the jokester. He was very funny. He was a cool guy who taught me about jazz, and I definitely listened to 70s classic rock because of him.
Yes.
And like it's funny. I'll be
Yes.
somewhere and I belt out in a song I hear, and they're like, "Christian, why are you?" And I'm like, but you know what? When I think about him, I think about something he told me when he said, because we're listening on the radio, we're listening to V103. Like I grew up on Frank Ski, who's now in Atlanta. I grew up with him on the radio as a kid. And I think about when he said, we didn't always have this. And when you think about it, hip hop came about, what was it, 1970?
70s.
73?
Yes.
So it celebrated 50 years last year.
Exactly.
So he said, so what was on the radio
Yes.
was rock. So that's what we listened to. And again, you think about these things that there's so much access now. Whatever you want to find, whatever you want to do, you pick up your phone, you ask Google.
Yes.
You can do these things, but the things that he taught me, I just think about the fact of the impact that he had on me. And I remember when he passed, and I said to you, because you were planning his funeral, and I was like, please do not have his funeral on your birthday. And you said, that's the only day. And I was just like, this woman is not just a rock, like she's a crater. Like who can do that on their birthday? And when I think about strength, how do you, and I already know your answer is going to be God. I already know.
You know it.
But when we take God in the middle and we put other things on the outside, what are those other things on the outside that you're putting in to give you strength?
I base it on previous experiences that I'm going to accomplish the goal or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to get through this. And it's just knowing and claiming your victory.
Yeah. I love that. Claiming your victory.
Yeah, things may be really tugging at you, but you just have to persevere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a little bit of probably my best discipline, getting through something.
Well, I have one final question for you.
Sure.
My question, you look so comfortable. You said, sure. I'm like, this is way different than episode 1 with you. No, I'm joking. It's funny because I was so excited because, we've filmed episodes already. We've launched, and I was just like, I can't wait to talk to my mother because I just feel like you are the model of how I want to be when I'm your age and beyond.
Okay.
Because you're a wild one. Like you are. You are. So what are some of the things you do for fun to just be you and enjoy yourself?
Oh, fun. Traveling
That's true. Yeah.
and food. I hate to say it, but food is so dear to me.
It is so dear to me.
I mean,
I feel like I'm in the same category as food. Very dear to you. I'm joking.
no, you're not. But you're top of my list. But no, but food and travel and just the things I've mentioned earlier, things I like to do.
Yeah.
And you said make me happy.
Yeah.
These are the things. And history. I got to concentrate a little bit on history. Mm-hmm. I'm a part of the archives ministry at my church. And again, the rich history of the church is just finding new things that we can use to educate others about the rich history of the church.
Yeah.
Where the church came from and where it is today. That's just a love for me and things I love to do related to that. But history in total, I love history. And
Why do you love history?
I don't know. I think it's just finding out how things were
Yeah.
in a different era.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating. Some people's fascinated with science. Me, it's history. I was really good with history in school and was just dear to me from the beginning. It's like, probably should have been a history teacher, maybe. But I show passion.
It's never too late.
It's not. And that's key. It's never too late. I've been trying to get my master's done for some time, and I keep saying, oh, you're going to do it. You can get it done. It's not essential at this point, but it's just a personal satisfaction.
Yeah.
So that learning, oh my God, I have to learn something new every day. Else I have not fulfilled the inner craving. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah.
My inner cravings to fulfill my day. And history is part of it. And I can take something, a name I might hear on TV, listen to something maybe said about it that makes it interesting, and then I'll Google it and sit there, maybe do my own little research and read.
Yeah.
So things like that makes me happy. Little things like that makes me happy.
Well, I love that. I will say I have first of all, of course, I've enjoyed our time. Second, I've learned several things that I did not know about you, which is great. You're always fascinating, Chetta. And I'm just very happy that we had this time together and that we had a chance to share. And I hope that whether someone is a widow, is going through widowhood, they've lost someone, or they are just trying to find themselves, or they're loving on their adult children or their adult child who's trying to figure out how to best support their aging loved one, that they've gained some value in here today. So thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name is Christian Ross, and come back to us with Love and Longevity. We are here every other week, sharing ways to spread joy, live your best life, and have longevity. We'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you for joining us at Love and Longevity with Christian Ross. If you enjoyed what you heard, give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform, and be sure to follow us. And if you like more from me, you can subscribe to the Happy Talks newsletter at the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening.